everyone. Welcome to an episode of Uncanny Tracks where we pit the two new superhero movies against each other. That's right, two white guys are going to talk about the two ethnic superhero movies, The Marvels and Blue Beetle.
Bob, who better to talk about it?
Who better to talk about it, Matt? Who better? So I am Bob from Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Matt, how the hell are you doing tonight?
Doing okay, Bob, and I want to go ahead and preface for the audience that I did not watch The Marvels. The original idea was Bob was going to watch The Marvels, and he was going to tell me about the movie, which he's going to do.
Because Matt is cheap and doesn't like to go see movies in theaters.
Right, and I can wait another 5 days, and it'll be on Disney+. Which, wait a minute, aren't you on my Disney Plus subscription, Bob?
I am on your Disney Plus subscription, Matt. But I think the only really acceptable way to see a big, dumb superhero movie is on the big screen. The actual big screen. Not my somewhat big TV, but the actual big screen.
Yeah, so Bob was going to watch The Marvels, and I noticed that Blue Beetle dropped on HBO Max.
Who cares?
Yeah, I was too cheap to see that in theaters as well, but I kind of had an inkling I kind of wanted to see it because of Young Justice. And you can listen to our podcast about Young Justice on Patreon. Visit us there. X-Men 92 versus Young Justice.
X-Men 97 is the sequel.
Right, that's coming out soon. We'll be covering that as well. But getting back to what I was saying, Blue Beetle, Young Justice, wanted to see what he would look like in movie. And, it was all right. And I told Bob, I said, this isn't that bad of a movie. So Bob then decides that he wants to watch it on his own.
Want is a strong word, Matt.
Bob needed to watch it on his own.
That's an even stronger word. Bob felt vaguely like a bum if he didn't watch this movie and then had Matt describe the plot at him when all he had to do was log on to his other friend's Max account and watch the stupid movie. So I sort of watched it.
And there you go. So originally this was going to be more of Bob tells me about Marvels, I tell him about Blue Beetle. We go our separate ways, maybe try to convince each other to watch the film. But now, not so much. Bob's just going to try to convince me to watch The Marvels, and he's probably going to bitch about Blue Beetle.
I didn't dislike it. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. All right, you want to do The Marvels first and then Blue Beetle?
Of course, Bob. Let's go straight into The Marvels. Let's talk about that.
All right. So I don't know that I'm not going to sit here and tell you have to see The Marvels or anything, Matt. That would be ridiculous. Of course you don't. It's pretty essential, as are all of these movies, and by that I mean all superhero movies. But I liked it. I think it's short, silly, and heartfelt. All those are, pretty good emotions. I'm honestly really worried that the negative reactions online and I guess at the box office are going to teach Marvel all the wrong lessons from this. The lessons of this movie ought to be that you can throw characters together, you can have them do silly things, and it'll be fun, and it doesn't have to be deeply tied into continuity. But because it seems like this hasn't done well, probably the lesson is going to be no, everything has to be serious, nothing can ever deviate from the boring MCU template, and you need Robert Downey Jr. in every movie. And so I want the MCU to fail because I'm tired of it, but I know it's not going to go away, and so I think this movie failing instead of something like Ant-Man 3 or Black Panther 2 is a bad sign, if that makes sense.
Oh, I agree 100%, Bob. I have not been interested in the Marvel properties as of late. Until they drop X-Men, I'm kind of going to shy away from it. I'm going to keep up with I'm going to keep up with it the same way I keep up with wrestling, Bob, through this podcast with you and through news sites that just spoil everything for me anyway in the headlines.
Nice. Yeah.
Speaking of which, we will be spoiling both these movies completely. Yeah. So if you haven't watched them and you plan on doing it, watch it now.
And speaking of the X-Men, after Matt gave the spoiler warning, there's a lot to say about the X-Men and Marvels, which we'll get to in just a second. So, yeah, I guess the quick thing, Matt, would be it's a good introduction to Monica Rambeau and Miss Marvel. So, there you have it.
Bob, pretty sure that both those characters debuted in different series.
Yeah, they did, but come on. I mean, in Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau is a kid, so that doesn't count. I totally forgot she was in WandaVision, Matt. I didn't remember. And that includes, in this movie, they reference that she apparently gets her powers in WandaVision.
Yeah.
It totally flew by me. I was like, maybe that was something in Secret Invasion. I watched WandaVision, but I don't remember this.
You trying to tell me, Bob, that you didn't remember everything that happened in the 16-hour-long epic of WandaVision, Miss Marvel, and Captain Marvel movie?
I definitely didn't remember anything from Captain Marvel because, there's a lot of Skrull stuff in this movie too that I thought was from Secret Invasion, which I didn't watch. But
I left that one out too as well. I'm sorry, I meant Secret Invasion as well.
Well, I now I don't know if you actually needed to have seen Secret Invasion to see this movie because it sounds like all the Skrull stuff was in Captain Marvel. So I don't know, man. I don't remember. I saw it in theaters when it came out. What can I say? Yeah, no, I don't remember WandaVision, and I do remember Miss Marvel the series, and I really like the actress who plays Miss Marvel and her family. I just didn't think the series was very good because it was a 6-hour origin movie, and that's pretty unnecessary.
Yeah, and I feel like that's. I don't know if Marvel's going in that direction now, where they're trying to introduce these lesser known characters through TV series and try to throw them into bigger movies. After this, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the plan, but I think that may have been the original one.
Yeah, which is weird because it's like Miss Marvel is not harder to explain than like Iron Man or Thor. You can just put her in a movie, you know?
And Monica Rambeau, Bob, I have no idea. I watched WandaVision as well. I do remember her getting some kind of powers in that series, but I don't know enough to really understand it.
So we're a week out and it's like hard to explain, but I would say that the movie does a decent job of like, even though all three of the Marvel's powers are pretty ill-defined, and I can't even remember what they were a week later. That said, in the movie, they do a pretty good job of differentiating the three's powers, if that makes sense.
Okay. Because in the trailers, I was under the assumption that they all got the same power or something, and that was the issue. I didn't understand that was connected somehow. I didn't understand it. If the trailer's that confusing for me, it's gonna be.
It's actually
trouble.
the trailer. I think was confusing, and the trailer also kind of gave me the impression that they were going to do like a Freaky Friday situation.
Yes.
Where, like, yeah. But that's not really what goes on. So, Matt, would you like to read a plot summary to our audience?
Sure, Bob. I would love to read a plot summary to our audience. And as I go through it, I'm going to probably butcher some things, and you just make fun of me. Here we go.
I'll correct you as you go, and you feel free to comment as you go.
Yeah. Some lowly Kree lieutenant now rules the Kree, and she wants to restore Hala and take revenge on Captain Marvel. So she decides to steal resources to replenish Hala's environment from 3 worlds that are important to Captain Marvel. First, the Kree dig up a quantum band from the dark side of the moon. Okay, so does this have any... The dark side of the moon, is that special in Marvel Comics in any way, Bob?
Yeah, Matt, you read the Dark Phoenix saga, right?
Oh yeah, I did, and that's going to fit in there maybe somehow. Huh.
Yeah, because the trial for the Dark Phoenix takes place in the blue area of the moon, and which is an abandoned Kree outpost. So it seems like they're maybe trying to seed that.
Oh yeah. Commence with the skeeting. Here we go. All right. Number 2, the Kree steal atmosphere from the Skrull refugee world. Okay. Number 3, the Krill steal ocean from a Bollywood
The Kree,
world.
not the Krill. The Krill are different.
The Krill. Sorry, the Kree steal ocean
I
from
can't remember what the Krill are, but I know there's something else.
Are they a fish or something? I don't know. The Kree steal ocean from a Bollywood world where Captain Marvel is in a diplomatic marriage to the prince. Okay, that seems far-fetched. I do not remember that in the trailer, Bob.
Yeah, I think they were afraid of. Well, on the one hand, I mean, clearly it's designed to, entice like moviegoers in India and Pakistan and Indian American and Pakistani American viewers. But no, I don't think that showed up in the trailer. It was basically just an excuse to have like Bollywood style dance scenes. I mean, it probably sounds dumb to you, but it was fun and charming, and it's the sort of random stuff superhero movies ought to do instead of, just nebulously firing energy at each other and grunting, although this movie has plenty of that too.
So that's what we pay for, Bob. We pay for the shooting and grunting. Just kidding. I don't. So number 4, the Kree steal energy from Earth's sun. Oh, okay. These 4 incidents give you the big set pieces. During the first incident, the unearthing of the quantum band by the Kree, the powers of Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel get entangled. So whenever 2 of them use their powers at the same time, they switch places. Okay, that's what I got from the trailer.
Okay, then yeah, you got it. That's the gimmick.
To some degree, I knew that they were like flip-flopping into each other's homes and stuff, and like one was out in the middle of space, and they got flip-flopped. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Over the course of the movie, they like get more used to the situation, and they actually like start training to use it strategically, etc.
To use it to their advantage.
Yes.
It's kind of like some badass, like, how in video games you can like switch out the characters, like in fighting games. Maybe.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but
yeah.
Well, the other thing is, I haven't read. I've read a lot of Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel comics, but I've not read a lot of the guy who was Captain Marvel before Carol Danvers. I think his name is
And then here's where I'm like, there
Marvel.
was a guy before Captain Marvel girl. What?
Yeah, no,
I don't remember. I don't remember this guy.
you
I
remember how
vaguely
you
remember
remember how
something.
when we were kids, Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't make her Captain Marvel until like 2012, 2011, thereabouts.
Oh, wait.
And they did go through other like identities. Like we'll talk about one later, like Binary. I think she had
Yeah, I
at
know.
least one
I know.
other
I
code.
know binary. I know that one. So that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there was a Kree guy who was Captain Marvel, and he was bonded to Rick Jones. You know, the guy who was like the kid sidekick to Hulk in the Avengers back in the '60s.
Yes, vaguely. Yes.
And they had us. It was clearly like influenced by and inspired by the original Captain Marvel, like who DC now owns. I don't think they owned Captain Marvel then, but they now own the original Captain Marvel, who they, even though he's the original, they've had to rename Shazam for legal reasons.
Right.
And the setup between Rick Jones and Marvel, the first Marvel Captain Marvel, is sort of like the setup of Billy Bastion and Captain Marvel Shazam, where it's like one replaces the other when they do a certain thing. Although it's not always clear that Captain Marvel Shazam and Billy Bastion are different people, where it is very true that Rick Jones and Marvel are different people. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, I completely forgot about the Marvel guy when you say it that way.
Yeah, and like I've only read the Jim Starlin stuff with him, which is not that much. I haven't read anything else. But yeah, and so the switching out of the three, I mean, on one hand, it's just a kind of, it's a, I'm not afraid to say it. It's a fairly elegant way for like a superhero movie to put three characters who don't really have any association together other than similar names and somewhat similar powers, right?
Yes.
But it's also like kind of interesting because it does pay a little bit of homage to that history of like Shazam, Captain Marvel, and Marvel, Captain Marvel, of like them switching out. So I don't know. I actually thought it was kind of clever and a little bit like a neat homage to comics past.
So, Bob, as we continue with the plot, while the three heroines bond, Miss Marvel's parents and elder brother go up to the Sword Station with Fury, which has no explanation. And I know you're thinking sounds stupid, Matt, but honestly, it's pretty charming to see older Pakistani people in space bantering with Nick Fury. Much better than having Fury as an Oracle type figure. Okay, Bob.
Thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, sword stations in space, right? Like it's like a space station.
Yeah, they're like the alien equivalent of Shield. Like they defend Earth from extraterrestrial events instead of like the Russians. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And what's so interesting about this, Bob, is you think it's charming to see an older Pakistani family like in space bantering. We get kind of the exact same sort of thing in Blue Beetle. We'll get to that in a little while.
Yeah, yeah. It is interesting how with like two of the earlier superheroes of color, like two of the earlier superheroes of color in movies, their adventures are so defined by like their family coming along on the adventures. It's interesting.
That is very interesting. And see, when I heard that was happening in the film, I was like, that seems really weird. But I mean, I could see it being in it from a comic book. In a comic book, I could see that happening and it not being so strange.
Yeah. Well, and it's also just like if the other option is just Samuel L. having to like yell into the communicator whenever it works to Carol or Monica or Kamala, like that would be pretty boring, right?
Oh, right, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I guess I also should say for clarity, this is going to make you angry. I think that they don't call them Sword in the movie. They call them, I think, Saber, but they're basically just Sword from the comics. So I'm just...
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
And do you remember Sword from like the Joss Whedon X-Men run, like with Abigail Brand and such?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So basically in this movie, I don't know if this is a transition that Secret Invasion accomplished because I didn't watch it, but in this movie, instead of being like the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., it seems like Samuel L. is the head of Saber or the head of Sword and is more concerned with space than he is concerned with like Hydra or supervillains. And so maybe that's a transition that Secret Invasion accomplishes. I don't know.
So I watched the first like 2 episodes of Secret Invasion when it aired, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, that's the impression I would get from that as well. That he's now dealing primarily with the sword, saber, whatever the hell you want to call it at this point. the
Nice.
space wing of Shield.
All right, Matt. Do you wanna bring down the first or the last part of our first plot summary?
Yeah, Bob. So during the
During
Kree
the Kree
attack on the
attack.
Sun, the Marvels, Fury, and Miss Marvel's family must evacuate the Sword personnel. And solution is to have the Cthulhu. Oh, fuck, you made me have to say that word. Cthulhu cats swallow
Cthulhu.
people, then herd the cats onto the limited number of escape pods. Okay, Bob. I do remember the cats being in the stupid trailer. I thought it was kind of funny the first time, and then it was really stupid. There's more than
Okay,
one
you
cat.
didn't see the first Captain Marvel?
I know that it scratched Nick Fury's eye, apparently.
Yeah, it did, and yeah, like I guess you've seen it, but just for the listeners who haven't, like, there's an alien species of cat. I believe they're called the Flurkin. They can open up their jaws like Cthulhu monsters and swallow things. Although, as I recall, and maybe I'm wrong, in Captain Marvel, they didn't so much stress like the Cthulhu cats like consuming people, but they really stress that in this movie.
Yeah, I really thought it was just kind of a one-off joke, but then it like just it's pretty bad now. It's like a big piece of this, right?
Yeah, but again, like this is what's I don't know. I feel like superhero movies ought to do stuff like this, like have Bollywood song and dance numbers, have all the characters frantically running around a space station, like throwing cats at people so that the cats swallow the people, and then throwing the cat in the escape pod. I think it's pretty funny.
So you have no issue with cats doing this, but when there's babies falling from buildings, that's where you draw the line, Bob.
When did I say I had a problem with babies falling from buildings?
You didn't have a problem with babies falling from buildings and the Flash rescuing them?
No, I have a problem with what's his face who plays the Flash interacting
Ezra
with
Miller.
children, and I doesn't he also like stick a baby in a microwave in that movie?
That's correct, Bob. Now, are any cats put in the microwaves in this film?
No, no.
And
Now,
that is why Marvel is winning, guys.
yeah, yeah.
They see a cat, they don't think to put it in a microwave.
Look, I haven't followed the specifics of the accusations against the guy playing Kang, and I am a big believer in due process of law. But that said, I do think it also it also shows the difference of Marvel and DC, that it seems like Disney is getting rid of the Kang guy, whereas Warner Brothers or Discovery just goes ahead and does a whole movie with the guy who I'm pretty sure wasn't the Flash guy like convicted of some underage stuff.
Oh yeah, there was a ton of stuff, and he just kept doing things. That was the other problem.
Yeah,
It was like he'd get in trouble, and then be okay, we'll let him stay. Oh wait, he did something else.
yeah, yeah. All right, Matt. You thought you were done reading plot summaries.
I
Would you
did,
like
Bob.
to-
But let's see how this movie ends, okay? The
Yeah.
Kree ruler accidentally tears a hole between realities. Monica Rambeau has to heal the hole, but first she has to be charged up with energy from Captain and Miss Marvel in a very sexually suggestive scene. She heals the hole but is trapped on the other side. Right before the end credits, Miss Marvel is waiting for Kate Bishop in the dark in Kate Bishop's apartment and echoes some of Fury's lines from the original Iron Man before breaking character in her enthusiasm. Miss Marvel alludes to Iron Man having a son, which may be how they end the Kang dilemma by transforming and recasting him as the younger Iron Lad.
Thoughts?
Wow. So let me just start from the beginning, Bob. I did read some info on this movie. Why did Monica Rambeau have to be on the other side of the hole?
Well, she had to heal the hole, and
Can
in
she not heal
healing-
it from our side?
I mean, she was trying not to get captured, or trying to get stuck on the other side. But the way it happened, no, she had to be on the other side. It turned out.
Okay. I guess it's
Matt,
like getting a colonoscopy from the other end. Like,
Yeah. Well, Matt, I think the operative song you should be thinking about here is Marvin Gaye's "Sexual Healing."
oh God.
And you don't do the sexual healing from the outside of the orifice. You have to be inside the orifice to do the sexual healing. If you get what I'm saying.
That is the best way to explain it, Bob. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, Matt.
I can
I'm
now.
glad that was helpful for you.
I'm gonna need somebody to take the whatever happens at the end of this film and just put it to sexual healing.
Man, the scene where they're charging her up, even like it sounds like sexually healing the hole would be the the scene with the implication, but no, it's really when Kamala and Carol are charging up Monica. That's man, I'm glad the movie has such strong lesbian energy. It's a good thing, but like it's pretty funny.
Bob, speaking of sexual healing, do you know what the last line of that song is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
He goes, "'Cause I'm all alone. I gotta have sexual healing, darling, 'cause I'm all alone. Sexual healing, darling, till you come back home. Please don't procrastinate. It's not too good to masturbate."
Oh wow, I didn't remember that at all.
It's very vague at the end of the song. Like it goes quiet. You know how like you fade out of a song?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like as the song is fading out, he says it, so you don't catch it. But if you listen to that song anytime soon, just wait for it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the last word's masturbate.
I mean, Marvin Gaye really was trying to be a pioneer in expanding like the subject matter of songs. I mean, from the more political angle, is the protest album, is it Mercy Me? Is that
Yes,
the name
Mercy
of it?
Me.
Yeah. Or no, I think it's What's Going On, but Mercy Me, the ecology is one of the songs on it. I think that's right.
All right, Bob. So let's talk.
Anyway.
I want to talk about two things here. First off, Young Avengers. What's your thought on this? I'm not excited about it because honestly, these characters, you've had to watch all these shows on Disney Plus. I've watched a bunch of them, but I haven't been that entertained enough to want to go see them in a film together.
Well, if they do it right, hopefully you won't need to watch all of these. Like if they do it right,
I got to watch 42 hours of TV shows.
Yeah, in the same way that like, I mean, granted, I think the original Avengers movies, directed by Joss Whedon, is pretty bad, but you don't need to have seen the Thor, Iron Man, and Cap movies to see it. You know?
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a minute. Though. We got Kate Bishop. She'll be taking Hawkeye's place. We know that. We've got the Falcon guy is now Captain America. Winter Soldier, I think, is part of it too, right?
He won't be in it. I don't think.
What the hell? Like, what was the whole point?
He's not
in that?
a young Avenger, man. He's like in his fucking 30s.
That didn't stop anybody from anything. And
No,
I'm still
no,
young, Bob. What are you talking about? Who else do we have on here? We got Ironheart,
Well,
right?
Let me run through it because you're all confused. Probably we could have the older alternate universe versions of Scarlet Witch's twins
Yes,
from WandaVision.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Wiccan and I forget the name of the Quicksilver one, but we could probably bring them in. We could bring in Ironheart, although I'm not sure if they will, especially since they're also teasing Iron Lad, who is one of the original Young Avengers. Then you would have Kate Bishop, you would have Miss Marvel, and even though I was all enthusiastic to correct you, there's someone else I'm forgetting.
Black Panther.
He's too young though.
No, I mean the female.
Oh, Shuri.
Shuri. Sorry,
Yeah.
her name escapes me.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Toussaint L'Ouverture.
No, not the little boy. I don't want like a
Sorry,
Wesley Crusher in our Marvel films. That's not cool.
Yeah,
Nobody wants that character.
You could have all of them. Also, like young Loki in the comics has been a part of Young
God.
Avengers, but I haven't watched the Loki show. Although people really liked how season 2 ended, but I don't know how that ending in season 2, like where that leaves Loki. I don't know if you would want to bring in young Loki, but he would be another option. So yeah,
Bruce Banner's kid.
There is a character called Hulkling. He's not Bruce Banner's kid. It turns out he's like some sort of Kree Skrull hybrid, I think.
Oh, he was introduced in She-Hulk though. Is what I'm saying. So, or whatever that character was. Maybe it's not his
Oh,
kid.
he was. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you told me that, but I totally forgot about it.
I thought it's okay, Bob. Once again, there's only like 300 hours of television you have to watch to keep up with this shit.
Well, but again, I think if you do it right, like Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel's deal, for example, like it's not complicated, and you don't need to watch their stupid shows to understand it. And so I don't know. And honestly, like I like the actresses who play Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel. I think they have charisma. I think that could work. So
let me ask you this, Bob, because this opens a new line of questioning for me. Do you think it's easier to follow along in comic books with this kind of stuff than it is with movies?
Yes, because I think in comics the expectation is that no one can read everything.
Okay.
And so they just write with that in mind. Whereas I think they still haven't gotten to that point, even though it should be obvious that no one other than sickos should watch these 50 films and 20 TV shows. Yet nonetheless, here we are.
I mean, it's almost like a lifestyle at this point. You're just like,
well, so
it's like you have to watch Marvel every day.
Here was going to be my complaint / joke about the Young Avengers, even though in some sense I like the Young Avengers comics. They're fun. I'm somewhat optimistic about it. But my concern would be we have the Marvel schedule through 2027, right?
Right.
Like by the time they make this damn movie or this damn miniseries, they're going to be in their late 30s. Why are they? That's I think one of the weirdest and weakest things about the MCU, like as a film and a TV show, is it's like, you know, the great thing about comics is that you tease something and then a new issue comes out the next month. Like these stupid movies and TV shows tease things and then it comes to fruition 5 years later.
Yeah, okay, that is what is happening with X-Men, and it's driving me insane because I just don't care anymore about Marvel and like Marvel as a whole.
Well,
I
actually
want
have
to
a
I want to
question.
see the X-Men. That's what I want to see, and it's
Yeah.
not happening. But I keep getting these little like pieces. They keep
Well,
dangling things in front of me.
yeah, I have a question about that too, but let's go ahead and have you describe the mid-credit scene in Miss Marvel for the listeners.
All right, Bob. So there's a mid-credit scene, and I spoiled myself on this because I am like that. But Monica Rambeau wakes up in a lab. Her dead mother, Maria Rambeau, is here as Binary, the cosmically powered Carol Danvers from the Brood Saga.
Do you remember
So
that outfit?
I do remember that outfit, and let me just say that Binary has become like the OP version of Captain Marvel for most like video games. Like anytime you play a video game and she's gonna get her like super magic power, that's like the ultimate power. She becomes Binary.
Yeah, which makes sense because like when she becomes Binary in the Brood Saga, it's very much like an homage or a repetition of Marvel Girl becoming Phoenix earlier in the Claremont.
And that's exactly how her powers work in any video game she's in. It's like
Interesting.
she reaches that point and then she goes Binary and she's almost unstoppable. All
Well,
right.
and I did want to just say too, just for sake of time, really quickly, like there are a lot of Phoenix connections to how they portray Carol Danvers in this movie. So we talked about like the
Oh,
Dark Side
shit.
of the Moon. There's a lot of stuff about like Carol Danvers, like I left out of the summary, but her like healing the Kree sun is a very Phoenix thing. We have her in the Binary costume, which was specifically like a repetition, or we don't have her, but rather we have Monica Rambeau's mother in Carol Danvers' Binary costume, which was a repetition of Phoenix. So I did think it was interesting with all the more explicit X-Men connections we're about to talk about, like all of the kind of overlay of Phoenix material on top of Captain Marvel.
All right, so Bob, someone is talking in this lab, and at first you believed it was Mr. Fantastic. Is that correct?
Yeah, since the Fantastic Four movie, isn't that like 2 years away or something? And it's apparently going to be in an alternate universe.
I don't know about the alternate universe thing. I just know that we had the dude from The Office as Mr. Fantastic in the Doctor Strange movie. Was that it? Yeah, Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah. Although it was the Doctor Strange movie, and then there's debate about are they going to cast him, or are they going to cast Pedro Pascal, or are they going to cast somebody else?
Yeah, Pedro Pascal is going to be an interesting one if that's the way they go.
I don't. Why are other than racism? Why do people not want it to be Pedro Pascal? I mean, I don't want it to be Pedro Pascal because I like Pedro Pascal and I want him to do better things.
Okay, Bob, I
But
think that may be why most people.
oh,
I know that most you don't. Your opinion usually doesn't fit with like the mainstream, but I think that's my reasoning as well. Like I've seen the guy in Mandalorian, I've seen him in other things, and
well, saying you've seen him in Mandalorian.
yeah,
is a little
Bob,
bit of a
I saw him in
stretch.
Mandalorian. He's the best.
No, you missed my joke, Matt. It's a little bit of a stretch to say you've seen him in Mandalorian.
Yeah, I have because he's under a
No,
mask. the whole
because
time.
he's in the costume for most of the time, and half the time it's other guys playing him anyway.
No, Bob, he's totally under that the whole time. All the stunts, everything. Just
Okay,
kidding. I know, Bob. I'm just fucking with you. You mean the dude that they took Darth Vader's helmet off? That guy who hadn't been in that costume the whole 3 movies? Is that what you're saying? You
I'm
trying to
not
tell me the guy that
complaining.
played Anakin Skywalker in Phantom Menace didn't also play Darth Vader all the way up into the most
I'm
recent
not
film?
complaining about it. I was just trying to make a joke, and then you no-sold my joke, and it made me angry. Like Hulk Hogan over here, hard guy to work with. Always
welcome to
no-sells the slaps.
Welcome to my life. So anyway, Bob, so we see an X on the corner of the monitor apparently, and then we see Kelsey Grammer as Beast. I have now seen some footage taken on a cell phone or some shit. Definitely a CGI Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was, but I have no eye for this
Like
stuff.
probably pulled straight out of like X-Men '97.
Nice.
Somebody even made that comment on one of the on a Reddit forum that what if, because Kelsey Grammer's wearing the exact same outfit that the X-Men '97 Beast has on with like the glasses and all that shit that you usually don't see him wearing.
Yeah, and then
So
he directly mentions Charles, right? He's like, "Oh, Charles will have to be informed," or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be awful if this is just like a crossover with X-Men '97 in the Marvel universe.
Well, so that's kind of my question. Like, so at first I just assumed like Patrick Stewart at the end of Doctor Strange 2 was just a way to kind of, have fun with the multiverse, call back to, a semi-beloved series of films. But given that they're also like bringing up Kelsey Grammer here, I'm wondering, because this seems insane to me if Marvel does this, but I'm actually wondering if they are going to do it. Are they going to not reboot the X-Men? Are they just going to bring in some version of the Bryan Singer X-Men? Because that seems mad to me if that's true.
The only way they can do this, Bob, is if they have the different Earths and they somehow tell you on the corner of the screen, like, this is Earth 101, this is Earth 107, this is Earth X,
which
this
is
is Earth...
basically what Doctor Strange 2 did, as I recall.
Yes, that is the only way they can do it.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just insane. I mean, I don't think they're going to do that. I think the idea is that they'll do a rebooted X-Men, but they're just enjoying they're just using the cheap hints from having Patrick Stewart and Kelsey Grammer. But it's insane.
I mean, they have made so many. They dangle all these carrots. Like in Miss Marvel, they refer to her as a mutant. At the end, they dangled Quicksilver in front of us in WandaVision. It was not Quicksilver. It was something McNuts or some D's Nuts joke or some stupid thing they made. I don't remember what it was.
Well, they were briefly resurrecting him, right? Because he'd been killed, I think, in Avengers 2.
Yeah, but he was the one from First Class and all that in that series of movies. The actor was.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It was the other Quicksilver.
But then we find out his name is like Dickhole or something stupid, and it just pissed me off.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
You didn't know about that?
Well, any other...
Hit us up on X, guys, if you can remember what the name of Quicksilver was. It was something awful.
Any other thoughts about how they're teasing / seeding the X-Men into the MCU?
I don't know, but I can tell you that X-Men 97 merchandise is being sold all over at Target, so it is happening. It is coming eventually. I hope to see more kids dressed like Wolverine.
We got to get back on recording, Matt. We got to get back on recording.
Yeah.
So, Matt, we do this every time, but the upcoming MCU films, Deadpool 3, Captain America 4, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, Wesley Snipes' Blade, which makes me angry, and Avengers 5 and 6. I assume you are excited about Deadpool 3 because you're a pleb, you're a Philistine. Are you excited about any of those other ones?
Okay, Bob, I'm going to go back to your Deadpool 3 comment here. I'm excited about Deadpool 3 because my wife is dying to see it because Taylor Swift might be in it. So she's like, hey, we need to watch all the other Deadpool movies. And I'm like, you're right, we should. We should go watch all the Deadpool movies.
It's I think it's really messed up that you're exploiting your wife's Taylor Swift fandom in that way, man.
Taylor Swift is Dazzler, Bob.
That's what they say, Matt. I'm great.
It's going to be awesome. I'm kidding. It just means I can go see Deadpool 3 not by myself.
I just want to be clear. This is not a middle-aged man hating on Taylor Swift. I have no feelings about Taylor Swift. Yeah. This is a middle-aged man hating on Deadpool movies. I want to be clear about that.
Yeah. And there's the part of me wants to explain the whole origin and history of Dazzler to my wife, and show her all the different costumes and shit and like that. But then I'm like, that may turn her off. It may turn her.
Maybe for Christmas, one thing. I'm not saying this is the only thing or the main thing, but maybe one thing you might get your wife is Dazzler the movie, the original graphic novel.
Since you said that, Bob, good. I downloaded that illegally because I was going to read it and see if it's something she would actually read, and I don't think so. No, but good. So we have a very very like thinking minds. Like that was the first thing I thought.
Another option. Maybe you should illegally download the issue where Dazzler fights Galactus and see if that one would be fun. I'm pretty sure that happened. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Whatever I choose, she kind of has to look like Taylor Swift in it. So I can't just go with the old school 80s Dazzler with the blue outfit and the headband.
I don't know who the artist was on any of the Dazzler books, and apologies to them for suggesting this, but maybe you should buy her a copy of the Dazzler versus Galactus comic and then go in with a pen and make her look more like Taylor Swift.
Maybe I should use AI and create a Taylor Swift Dazzler and just act like that's an actual comic image.
It would be funny if you started making a Taylor Swift Dazzler comic strip for your wife via AI, and then you started posting it online, and that became far more successful than this podcast. And you're
Holy
sorry,
shit,
Bob, you're dead weight. I'm cutting you off.
You have great ideas, Bob. We could do this. Taylor Swift AI art of her as Dazzler, comic book series.
He's like, I found a way to incorporate my wife into my internet fandom. I don't need my best friend anymore.
Yeah, what if we just rename? I can't remember what Dazzler's actual name is. What is it? Do you remember?
Allison Blair, I think.
Allison Blair. So, you act like You act like I should know this.
No,
what the hell's wrong with you, Matt? You don't remember Allison Blair as her other name?
No. That you misheard that because I said I think at the end, and the tone was I think I'm right, but I'm not totally.
Oh,
sure.
okay. Yeah, see, Bob, your tone came off a little different. This reminds me of at work the other day when I was on a chat with I was on a typing chat with customer support for one of our programs, and the dude ended a comment with an exclamation mark, and I told him to tone it down. I'm like, we're talking about education software here. We're not talking about.
All right, Matt. Real quick, any other upcoming MCU films besides the Taylor Swift Dazzler movie that you have any thoughts on?
Okay, I'm going to run through this real quick, Bob. I'm sorry. This is what we're actually doing. Captain America 4, I do want to see because I want to see Sam Wilson as the main. I think that might actually be pretty good.
When you say it like this, it makes me feel racist for not wanting to see it.
Yeah, you're a racist. You saw the other Captain America movies with the white guy. Why don't you see the one with the black guy?
Yeah. But then I wasn't going to watch the miniseries with the white and the black guy, and I assume you need to have seen the miniseries with the white guy and the black guy to see the movie.
Because it's all about Winter Soldier and their buddy stuff, and the other guy, what, U.S. Patriot, is that the guy that?
U.S. Agent.
Yeah. U.S. Agent shows up, the cool-looking Captain America from the early 90s.
Yeah, played by Kurt Russell's son, right?
Yeah, which he's kind of entertaining. I think the movie has the ability to be maybe a sleeper hit. I don't think it's going to fail as much as some of these other ones because there's just a lot of really like the character work there is stronger. There's a lot more emotion in those characters than you see in some of the other films.
Maybe I just need to go back to my tried and true method of watching Marvel miniseries, which is I turn them on, I turn the sound off, I put the subtitles on, I call my family.
That is definitely a series you could do that for, Bob, because I think that's pretty much what I did. Except I wasn't calling my family; I was playing like games on my phone.
Well, I'm a better son than you, Matt.
Exactly. I didn't say you were.
Actually, you're a better son than I am, Matt. I moved a continent away, so I'm the worst son, actually.
But Bob, that's what they wanted.
Well, that's what yours wanted. It wasn't what mine wanted.
All right, Bob. These other films, Fantastic Four. That last film I still have a horrible taste in my mouth from that. I can't. I don't know. They do have Miles Mickelson. Is that how you say his name?
Well, they're saying that there'll
maybe
be
Dr.
Mads
Doom.
Mikkelsen for Doom. Yeah, they're saying
that I'm on board with.
Well, it's great casting, but it's like Mads Mikkelsen is so good that I don't want him wasting his time.
Yes, and especially he's going to be behind a mask anyway. That dude's creepy as fuck. Like he reminds me of the dude who played. He reminds me of Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow. Like just the dude. It's all in his eyes and his expressions.
Yeah. Did you see Hannibal, the TV series, Matt?
Bob, you have asked me this a billion times, and I promise you one day, Bob, I'm going to watch it. You're going to have to tie me down to watch it, but I'll fucking watch it.
Yeah. I don't think that's one you can watch with the wife, Matt. I think she might.
See, that becomes a problem when you get married, Bob, because you can no longer watch just whatever the hell you want to on TV. You have to.
I know, Matt. I know.
You have to barter for television time. It's like, I'm going to watch this show. It's only going to be 1 hour.
I just want to say my last partner was very good at, even though she watched the trashiest reality TV shows, she never made me watch them with her. I was very grateful for that.
We're not going to get into that, Bob. But
hitting too close to home.
Yeah,
all
Thunderbolts,
right, Matt,
Bob. I don't care about. I don't even.
Matt, you don't care about the Marvel Suicide Squad? What's wrong?
No,
with
Bob.
you?
I do not care. I don't give two shits about Thunderbolts. Non-Wesley Snipes Blade just needs to go away. Like, I'm sorry, you've screwed yourself over already. You shot yourself in the foot.
This also makes me feel racist because I love Mahershala Ali, but it's like, man, it's Wesley Snipes or no one. I feel like.
Wesley Snipes to me is the equivalent of Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man. You just changing is not going to work.
Except for I like Wesley Snipes. I'm not tired of him. I don't wince every time I think about him.
All right, Bob. Avengers 5 and 6. I do not care anything about. I can't even believe they're coming out with those.
I'm sorry I keep derailing us, but one quick question about Avengers 5 or 6. So I feel like, after the first 3 MCU movies, which weren't they, like, wasn't that Hulk, Iron Man, Thor? Was that the first 3?
Yes.
Like, you even though I don't even know if Avengers 1 had been announced at that point, you knew they were building to it, right? And you knew what it was going to look like.
Yeah, you did, but there was no, like, clear, like, map or picture or anything. It's just, you were like, oh, they keep giving us these little mid-credit scenes that are adding up to something.
But it was clear it was going to be like, okay, it'll be 5 or 6 characters. Nick Fury will get them together. They'll do a Captain America movie before now.
You got it.
Yeah. Whereas it is kind of wild, and I don't necessarily say this as a criticism, but it's just wild that we're not too many movies, not too many years out from the next Avengers movies, and I just have no, like, what would the team be? What would the plot be? I have no idea.
I'm assuming the Young Avengers thing is going to fit in there somewhere.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah, Bob. I have this gut feeling that's where it's going to go.
I don't know, man. I feel like you kind of want the Young Avengers to do their own thing. You don't want them to be like one of like 4 moving pieces in a big multiverse thing. But maybe I'm wrong.
Bob, so who are your Avengers going to be? You got
I don't know, Matt. That's why I asked the question.
Well, I'm just saying. Let's go. You got Falcon, Winter Soldier. You got Emily. Did Emily Clark play the
Amelia Clark?
Amelia Clark. Did she play the other Black Widow?
I didn't watch the Black Widow.
Yeah, you got her. You got Kate. No, Kate Bishop's Young Avengers. Hulk isn't going to go anywhere. You can just CGI his ass. Doctor Strange.
Thor.
Spider-Man.
You could do Valkyrie again.
Yeah, but none of these characters are going to draw fans. Like they're not.
You have Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, which you saw how many fans that drew. We just
burn. Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, that was a hit for Marvel.
Blade. I don't know.
See, there's no. You're right. There's no one. You have all these characters, but they're not going to form a team that's going to be identifiable.
They're going to bring back the originals, and it's going to be terrible. Like
that's going to be awful too. They need to just do something different. They need to just reboot or start over or something. I don't care. Just do something that's not the same.
Yeah. All right, Matt. On that note of despair, shall we talk about Blue Beetle?
All right, Bob. So we've talked the Marvels. I am not going to watch that film, even though you watched it and said it was okay.
You should. It's fun.
It's fun.
You should wait till it comes on Disney Plus, and then you should watch it. Like if you're gonna subject yourself to all of Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's no reason to not watch. It's like an hour 45, Matt. I was like with trailers. I was out of the film. I was out of the theater after 2 hours. It was beautiful. It's what all MCU movies should be in terms of runtime.
Okay, that is where you and I can agree, because even Blue Beetle, it reached a certain point in the film where I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. And there was still like
an hour 50, wasn't it?
Yeah, there were still 40 minutes left, if that tells you anything. But that's my attention span as an adult. I still watched it. It was still okay. All right. So I'm going to kind of give you a little synopsis here, Bob. And you just chime in when you fucking feel like it. All right, here we go. I did it already. Jaime Reyes comes home after graduating from college where he was studying pre-law.
Hey, that's not a major. That's an intention.
Yeah, to discover that his family.
Also, it's the Gotham University of Law, I think it was, or something.
Oh
like
God,
that.
you watched closer than I did, Bob. I missed that.
I actually didn't. I didn't hear them say the school, and then I saw it in the Wikipedia summary. So,
so he comes home. He discovers his family's being evicted. His family consists of a dad, mom, sister, grandmother, uncle, whose name is Rudy.
And I just want to say it's pretty shocking to me that George Lopez is transformed into Steven Seagal.
The thing that bothers me the most is that they're being evicted because they can't pay their rent. But dad, mom, sister, grandmother, and uncle are all shown like doing work throughout the entire film.
I mean, that's Joe Biden's economy, Matt.
So they can't afford rent. That part hit me. I'm like, wow, that's really what they're trying to show here. Because dad had a heart attack and they had to shut the shop down or whatever. They were like some auto mechanic thing. Yeah. And that completely destroyed their whole life. Yeah.
Joe Biden's economy, Matt, just wrecking families.
So that's how Blue Beetle starts. But then you meet Victoria Cord. She's developing the OMAC project, and she's showing it off to her niece Jennifer, who of course thinks it's evil. Shenanigans lead to Jaime meeting Jennifer and visiting Cord Tower for a job opportunity. There's a lot of white people being overtly racist to Latinos in this film.
Yeah, it was kind of amusing to see Susan Sarandon in particular, who has a very good reputation as like a liberal progressive activist, just being really racist throughout the whole movie. Yeah,
she calls everybody Sanchez or something like that, and it's just mean. Hold on one second. Okay. And there's a lot of overt racism, and then of course Jaime starts with a J, and even I've been bad about this, calling him Jamie, but it's how I read it. Jaime. But anyway, where were we at, Bob? Jennifer Stills is terrible.
Have I ever told you the Jesus story on the podcast, Matt?
I don't think so, Bob.
One of the greatest Facebook posts I've ever seen. It was a screenshot and I think it was real. I think this was like before you had people like doing Photoshop jobs of Facebook comments, but it was somebody complaining that, oh, Jesus is giving me such a hard time today. And the first comment, is a very solicitous white Christian woman being like, well, Jesus does give us a lot of problems, but it's never more than we can handle. And if you can pray about it and open your heart to him, he'll find a way to guide you through it. And then the reply from the original poster is, no, I'm talking about my son, Jesus. He got suspended from school for punching the janitor, again.
Jeez. Wow. Ugh. Yeah,
All right,
always get the. Always try to understand the context, folks, before posting, and always read an article before making a comment. That's another thing. All right.
Well, we have slightly different opinions on that.
Okay. Well, if you just comment on what the headline says, you're usually going to make yourself look stupid.
I'm just saying, Matt. Like, news outlets have a perspective, and if you understand their perspective, usually it's pretty obvious what their take on a given situation is going to be. And really, people say that, like they say that like, oh, it's the same as that stupid never judge a book by its cover. It's like they say that because it's like, oh, I'm so open-minded and smart. And it's like, no, what you're really doing is you're taking a talking point from a big media corporation who gets paid if you click through on the headline. So, headline is
They're winning, Bob. They're winning. They got my click.
Yeah.
They're winning. They got their ad money.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
If the headline is like, trans people are preying on kids in bathrooms, or like, oh, look at all the Hamas-style terrorist activity we found in this hospital, you don't have to read the article to know that it's, it's hate-mongering shit. Like, you can use your intelligence and figure that out without giving them the 36th of a cent or whatever your click-through does.
See, Bob's leveled up a little more than I have. Once I'm exposed to more of these, I will level up as well and no longer read them and just be like, that's stupid, and keep on scrolling.
Well,
Thanks,
see,
Bob.
the thing is whereas Matt is a healthier person and is just a fan of, media, I have become that toxic and hateful thing, a fan of politics. So it's like Matt was impinging on my fandom there, and I was pushing back. But really, I'm the one who's losing. Matt's living a happier, better, adjusted life than me.
Well, Bob, let's talk about what happens next, because Jennifer steals the scarab from her grandmother's lab in a big belly burger box and gives it to Jaime to hide.
Yes.
Oh, and I said grandmother, I meant aunt. Because I was very confused about what age Susan Sarandon was supposed to be. I think that she's Ted Kord's sister, but older.
She is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe not older. I mean, I think she and Ted are probably supposed to be similar age.
Okay. I
guess we'll see if they ever make a sequel to this, which I doubt.
No, we'll never find out. So,
yeah.
Unless there's like a companion book that goes with it, I don't know. All right. So they go back to the house. Jaime's family starts tossing around the scarab. It connects to Jaime, and he becomes the Blue Beetle. All right. The first question I want to ask you, Bob, how would you expect a Susan Sarandon villain to act?
I don't know, man. I didn't really. I mean, I thought it was interesting, like how racist, the character intentionally was. Other than that, I didn't really have like many big thoughts on it.
My first introduction to Susan Sarandon, Bob, is very unique. There was a movie on HBO when we were growing up, and no, it was called White Palace.
Oh,
and
I don't know that movie.
In White Palace, Bob, is a movie where Susan Sarandon works at a White Castle like rip-off, knockoff, whatever for the film. Okay, she's poor.
That does not sound like a Susan Sarandon movie.
She's very poor, and she falls in love with this guy who picks up White Castle at her restaurant, and they fuck at her.
That's very realistic.
And they fuck at her house, Bob, which is disgustingly trashy. And they fuck around a bunch of White Castle hamburger boxes. Huh. And Bob, that's all I remember about the movie, and that's all I know of Susan Sarandon.
That's a shame.
I know she was in Thelma and Louise. That's it. Like, I don't know much more about her.
Have you ever seen I'm a Virgo?
No.
You should watch I'm a Virgo. It's relevant to the plot you just described.
I also get I also confuse her constantly with Sally Fields.
Oh, well, okay, that's silly.
Yeah, I know, it's strange. Like, I don't know why I have issues. But if I needed her to act like a villain, she hit it because she acts like a Karen. That's how she acts in this film.
Yeah, she is corporate Karen in this. That's
corporate racist Karen.
Yep. Yep. Oh man.
So, Bob, the
Matt,
funniest
what
line in
you're
this whole
saying
film.
is that the comedic stylings of George Lopez really won you over during this movie.
Okay, Bob, George Lopez was way funnier in this than I expected. Some of his lines are just like just hilarious. When Jaime yells, "It's inside me," is referring to the scarab. His uncle goes, "It went up his ass." The scarab.
That spoke to you in a way.
It was that's so funny, Bob. Because I mean, maybe it did. I don't know. They never touched on that in the comic books. So
Look, just to jump ahead a little bit, I did actually think it was funny when Jaime's entire family was making fun of how small his dick is. Like
yeah,
that was funny.
yeah, dude learns how to like use a suit and shit, and he like falls through the roof, and he's butt naked because I guess the scarab eats your clothes and then goes away. But he's butt naked in front of his family, and they just start making fun of his dick. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. And then they were making fun of the scarab, attached at like the base of his spine, like basically like or no, was it the base of his spine or his shoulders? I can't remember.
it's his shoulders, yeah.
Shoulder. And I in my mind I'm picturing it as a tramp stamp, but whatever.
All right. So one thing they did differently here, Bob, that I kind of like is that the reason that once the suit's connected to Jaime, it wants to like calibrate itself and adapt to the new host. So it starts doing these extreme things like shooting itself up into the atmosphere to see if it can still contain, keep the host alive, bring him back down through the atmosphere, slam the brakes, all this shit just to make sure everything's in working order. That was an interesting take on the whole, I'm learning how this shit works scene that we've seen so many times in other superhero films.
Yeah,
Did you find it clever, Bob?
I didn't. I was paying less attention than you were, and I also this is kind of inevitable with Blue Beetle, but I don't really love the Iron Man overtones of it all.
There was a lot of Iron Man.
But that said, like the depictions of the suit were not. They were somewhat interesting. I mean, definitely the only Blue Beetle I really think people need is Brave and the Bold and Young Justice Blue Beetle. But that said, like it was an interesting depiction, and it was more visually interesting than like how they do Iron Man and Ironheart armor in the MCU, which is really, really boring.
Yeah, it was a different take, and yes, it is similar. But I also like how they use practical suits for the Blue Beetle costume. Like that was an actual outfit, not a CGI, get up.
Yeah, I didn't notice that because I guess I just don't have a good eye for it. But once you pointed it out, I was thinking it was like, yeah, I guess it did look a little bit better and a little bit more like realized than like CGI would have done.
So let's go back to the film, Bob. Where all right, Jaime's learned how the suit works. The uncle tells Jaime that they can't go to the police because Grandma doesn't have a green card.
Do you think this is like foreshadowing that it turns out that I don't know. I thought this was maybe like. I don't have strong opinions. I would defer to others' opinions on this, but
yeah.
Maybe it's foreshadowing of the fact that grandmother was like some sort of revolutionary, maybe a Zapatista or something, which I thought was a little ridiculous. But I don't know if other people find it charming. Who am I? I do support old Mexican women yelling death to imperialism, so that's fine.
Good. Well, Bob, on top of that too, the truck is called Taco.
Yeah, I guess we should just keep going.
So at one point, Jennifer and Jaime attempt to break into Court Tower to retrieve the key that will unlock the scarab from Jaime's back. Carapax, Victoria's right hand.
I must say that's a really funny as being like both an appropriately insectoid name for a Blue Beetle villain, and also sounding, like a Chicano name. I mean, maybe an actual Chicano would have a different opinion about that. But I sort of appreciated the name Carapax. I thought it was pretty funny.
That was really cool because it's a cut from the comics, but at the same time, it's like,
is?
I'm pretty sure Carapax is in the comics. Yes, I remember reading. Wasn't he like, or am I getting him confused with the other dude? I'm 100% sure he's in there.
He is, man.
Bullshit. Hold up. They just make that name up out of nowhere.
Oh no, he's a villain of the Ted Kord Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't crazy because I was like, because there's no way they were that creative. This is
it's
2023. They're not that good.
Let's see what else Conrad Carapax has appeared in.
Conrad.
Yeah, because he's not in. I don't think he's in any of the new Blue Beetle stuff.
But I've seen the name before. Like I know it wasn't anything, but it may just be I was researching for the film at that one is all I remember. But
he was in the Ted Kord 1980s DC Blue Beetle series, and then he shows up in Blue Beetle Volume 735, which is I think that's late in the. I can't remember if we talked about this with our unreleased Blue Beetle episodes, but it's like it's either at the end of the Blue Beetle issues we talked about, or it's after. I can't remember.
Yeah, we brought him up before at some point. But I don't remember what it was for. But in this though, he utilizes the OMAC to kick Blue Beetle's ass.
I don't.
Bob.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure out something right quick.
Bob is navigating. He's got to know if Carapax has a long history in DC, or if the writers of this film made something actually creative and interesting.
Well, no, you're right. You're right. He is a Ted Kord villain. I'm just trying to figure out because I don't think it would have. Because I think we just talked about the end of the John Rogers run on Blue Beetle. I don't think we talked about Lila Sturgis's run on Blue Beetle.
Well, he uses the OMAC to kick Blue Beetle's ass, Bob. OMAC looks nothing like OMAC in the comics.
Yeah, we didn't. He shows up in one issue of the Blue Beetle series we talked about.
Yes.
And it's not one we talked about. It's later. It's not one we talked about on the podcast episodes that we didn't release. Maybe you went ahead and read
probably
the rest of that series. I don't know.
I just vaguely remember the character.
He's only in one issue, and there's a whole list of villains. So it makes me think he's probably just like on a page or something.
Okay. My memory's not that good, Bob, but I'm pretty sure I probably looked him up doing research for the film.
No, I mean you owned me, Matt. I thought Carapax was a made up thing for the movie. I was wrong. You were right.
I'm not taking advantage of this own, Bob, because it's a stupid own.
It's a stupid own, but I go back to it's a cool name.
Yeah, it is a very cool name, and one is a creative. It is a creative take on the whole insectoid, but also sounding kind of Latino.
Well, because in the '80s, Carapax was a white guy. I'm pretty sure his name was like Conrad Carapax. So they somewhat reimagined him for this, right?
So Bob, this fight between Carapax and Blue Beetle is a lot more grounded than what we're used to seeing. Do you appreciate those types of fights more, or do you want a CGI-filled mess that we usually get?
Of course, I want it to be more grounded, although I don't know. I'm struggling with the use of grounded as an adjective for like a thing where like people are growing hammers and scarab knives out of their hands.
Okay, now this one I just meant this first fight, not the others, because it does turn into a CGI-filled mess towards the end. Yes, but this first fight was a lot more grounded, I have to say.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Grounded is always better, of course.
All right, Jennifer uses the term symbiotic when she's referring to the scarab. It like wraps itself around the brainstem and attaches to every cell in the body. Have you ever thought to compare Venom with Blue Beetle? I don't think we ever have.
No, and I missed the use of the term symbiote or symbiotic. I mean, I always just think of like Blue Beetle as like a Spider-Man Iron Man crossover, which is maybe a little unfair because he predates those characters, and really the Iron Man elements aren't really there until the 2000s when they reimagined Blue Beetle as Jaime Reyes instead of like Ted Kord. But yeah, no, it's an interesting angle.
So we find out that Ted Kord had an abandoned mansion with a beetle cave. And we see some great shots of like comic accurate Dan Garrett and Ted Kord costumes. And there's a naked mannequin, which means that one of the uniforms is missing.
Yeah, and I don't know how I felt about this. Did I appreciate it? Did I think it was cringe? I don't know. I'm conflicted.
When I first watched the film and I saw the cave, I thought that the mannequin that had nothing on it was supposed to be Jennifer's costume. But then I was like, "There's not anything there. It's just a naked mannequin." So I was like, "Okay, never mind."
Little did you know it was for. Even though I thought this movie was pretty solid, the mid-credit scene, which we'll get to, is maybe the worst mid-credit scene I've ever seen. And little did you know this was foreshadowing for that.
It was, yeah. So Jaime makes a comment that Blue Beetle, while looking at Blue Beetle's gear, that it's like if Batman had ADHD.
So do you like that remark or not? I don't know.
I didn't understand it. It didn't really fit to me. I get that shit's blue, but like, what does that have to do with ADHD? Stuff kind of looks homemade. Is that what he's going for?
Some other lines he was saying like made it seem like, like it was partially that the way they were talking about Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, they were making it clear he was like second tier. He like wasn't Superman or Flash or Batman, but they were also, I think, maybe implying that like he was easily distracted and lacked focus and maybe just kind of did kind of wacky ideas here and there, but didn't like fully commit to the superhero lifestyle was sort of the idea I got. Does that make sense?
It does, but it didn't make sense in the scene because he's looking at Ted Kord's utility belt. I was like, it's a belt, and it looks just like the one he usually wears. Like, I don't understand.
I think it's the idea is like the type of like, and you maybe see this later with like the different Blue Beetle weapons that the family is using.
Yeah, they're fucking random. Yeah,
Yeah, there's just kind of random. It's
they're
just kind of
gimmicky.
all over the place. Yeah, yeah.
Gimmicky.
Yeah, which George Lopez likes, right? Because he like
No.
talks about how Ted Kord actually had a sense of humor, unlike Batman and the Flash. So I don't know. I guess it's one of those. I'm kind of two minds of it. Like I love Ted Kord. I love Jaime Reyes. It's kind of nice, even though I'm pretty immune to it after 20 plus years. It's still sort of nice to see comics characters you think are cool on the big screen. But on the other hand, it was a little bit of the Blue Beetle's so stupid. We gotta protect ourselves with irony and sarcasm from how stupid he is.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Like, I didn't feel that needed to be there. But there is one big thing. It's about this time in the film when you really start to figure out that they're comparing two different families here because of the character of Jennifer. There's this ongoing plot about family and strong work ethic. There's this ongoing plot about family and a strong work ethic that that you have to, in order to make it as an immigrant, you have to work really hard, and there's just a lot going on. And then there's the extended comparison between the poor Latino family and the upper class white family and the Cords and how they handle each other. And they're two very different things. And Jennifer's kind of in the middle. Did you buy into this?
I thought it was maybe a little overdone, but it wasn't. It's still like it was fine. I mean, it's fine. Like there's a lot of you can do a lot cringier like liberal identity politics in this film. I didn't have a big problem with it.
Yeah, I felt that the white family and the Cords was a bit exaggerated, but then I'm like, that probably is not. I just don't. I've never been part of it, so I don't know. As someone who's been primarily middle class.
Yeah, I don't know. I would be curious to see like what Latino and Pakistani people and Latino Americans and Pakistani Americans think of the portrayal of family in these two movies. Because like on the one hand, I could see them being like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's nice to see like a cartoonish but semi-realistic depiction of a family, right? On the other hand, it is kind of interesting that like whereas your white superheroes normally are not so defined by their family, or they're just defined by like, their dad's dead, and they're sad about it. It's interesting that like the POC superheroes have to be so defined by their family and have to have their family like so present in their adventures. I mean, it's not as intense with Miles in the Spider-Verse movies, but still like his parents are a big focus in that movie too. And so I don't know. It's like on the one hand, I could see that as like maybe just being a positive reflection of like, Puerto Rican or Pakistani or Chicano culture. But on the other hand, I could see it kind of being like a kind of respectability politics of like, well, the only way white audiences will identify with these characters is if we really just bang the family drum,
Yeah, that's kind of the idea I'm getting. I mean, I just don't. I don't know, and I don't feel like they're reinforcing any negative stereotypes, which is a good thing for the most part with the Latino side. With the white side, I mean, yeah, that's how it is sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, and I think too that like you get the idea that if there ever were a sequel to this, which there's not going to be, like Ted being a bad dad to Jennifer would be a part, that would be one of the major plots, and them having to come to some sort of reconciliation. And it seems like the film wants to suggest that that's partially a product of his being a rich white guy, but it's also maybe a product of his ADHD, that he wasn't a very like attentive father.
All right, Bob. So getting back onto the subject of the film, Cord does send a security force to capture Jaime, but we're then forced to witness the family being like removed from their home at gunpoint during the middle of the night. It's a disturbing scene because the dad actually gets punched out, the daughter gets drug out by her collar, the father has another heart attack, and the home is burnt to the ground. And you have this like intense scene where Jaime yells like, "Poppy!" Like it's very emotional. And it's sad because it reminds me of, that this is probably reminiscent to some people or some illegal immigrants who have been removed from their homes, and it's sad because they're just trying to live their life. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely trying to play into that, and I guess your mileage will vary of whether you find it affecting or kind of overwrought. I mean, I thought it was kind of affecting too. And I mean, I'd also point out it's not just illegal immigrants, but when you have a border security system and you have these people like ICE empowered to, go on buses anywhere and demand people show them their papers, or, harass people anywhere, oftentimes Latinos or Chicanos who are citizens or are legally here. It's just a general state of terror that, it's bad enough when it's applied to illegal immigrants, but it's a general state of terror for a lot of people.
Well, Bob, Jaime is captured. Jennifer then takes the family into the Bug, which reminded me of that vehicle that Batman uses in the Justice League film. That has it's like a spider.
Did you watch the Watchmen movie or the Watchmen TV series?
I did, yeah, I watched both.
I didn't watch either. Did they use, what's the Blue Beetle character in Watchmen? Is it Night Owl?
Not Owlman?
I think it's Night Owl.
Night Owl, yeah, Night Owl.
Did they, so he has like that owl-shaped thing that's clearly Beetle's bug, right?
Correct. Yes.
Did they play that, did they play that up in the movie or the TV series?
They play that up in the movie. They have him and Night, whatever her name was, have sex in it, just like in the comic.
Silk Spectre, right?
Silk Spectre, yeah.
Is it in the TV series?
I don't think so. No, not that I'm. No.
That was kind of like my pet theory, is that because of the prominence of the owl ship in the movie and maybe the TV show, that's why they really emphasized Ted Kord's like flying bug.
It's possible, yeah. But I just thought that they had to have some crazy vehicle for them to have, for the good guys. They just had to have something. And it looked way too much like the Justice League thing.
It is an interesting thing that it's like, obviously, like Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle doesn't need.
Yeah, it just kind of gets ushered in there. Like, we can make a toy out of this if we wanted to.
Yeah, but like it is pretty useful for like his family, like armed with like Ted Kord technology. That is kind of a funny plot convenience.
Yeah, and the uncle, who has driven his taco truck the whole time, now he's able to drive this bug.
All right.
Oh, is taco truck too much, Bob? Is that slight? That's what he calls it. It's the fucking taco truck.
Well, no. So I was being an oversensitive lib, Matt, because at first I thought it was a car, and I was like, "Damn it, Matt, you're being racist." But then I remembered, I was like, "No, it was a truck. I'm being an oversensitive. Matt's not being racist."
It was a truck on lifts, yes, Bob.
You're right. I admitted that you're right. You're not racist. I'm an oversensitive triggered lib. We've established this. You also know more about comics than I do. You know about Carapax. We've established
That's not true. I don't know more about comics, Bob. I know more about random ass characters that I don't know why I even know. I don't know why I know the Carapax thing. Honest to God.
You know about Carapax, and you know about a truck that is named Taco. Let
me tell you what I know about Bob. Susan Sarandon with an Uzi. Had she used the Uzi, that would have been the best. That would have given her the green light for best villain in the DCU. But she didn't. She just held it.
That's a pretty low bar, I think. But I'm willing to give it to her.
Bob, would you want to fight Susan Sarandon with an Uzi?
No, I would not, Matt. I would not.
I wouldn't either.
Oh man. So Matt, what happens at the end of the movie?
Scarab stops Jamie from killing Carapax. Carapax kills Victoria by blowing himself up. That's the big ending. That's your spoiler there, folks. And then we end the film with Jennifer becoming the new CEO of Cord Industries. She pays to have their house rebuilt and gives Rudy a new truck. And then Jamie flies off for Jennifer to presumably fuck. So there's your plot.
Don't forget, Matt, the AI voice of the Beetle armor, the Scarab armor, gives us an erection joke. Don't ever forget. So
my understanding is the white woman saves the day.
The white woman makes the white woman. She does an anti-racist training. She realizes her and her family's complicity in systems of racism and domination, and then she makes restitution for the harms she and her family have perpetuated.
I like that, Bob. That's well spoken, much better said.
So, Matt, I don't know. I have seemed pretty low energy about this movie. I am pretty low energy about this movie, but it is fine. I would say it and Black Adam, I at least appreciate, because even though they're not very good movies, they're at least somewhat different ways of doing the superhero film, which I guess is the theme of this episode for me, is that anything that gets off the standard track of the superhero film, whether that's the Marvels or whether that's the chaos that was Black Adam, or whether that's this movie is to the good. In a lot of ways, maybe it doesn't get far enough off the track of the standard superhero film, but nonetheless, like the stuff with the Reyes family is mostly cool. The stuff with Jenny Cord and Ted Cord is also somewhat interesting. It's not like amazing, but it's somewhat interesting. So I mostly like this. I wish it had been slightly better. I wonder, do you think we're ever going to see Jaime in future like DC stuff under James Gunn?
That was the same question I was going to ask you, Bob, because I think that it would be possible to just bring this Blue Beetle into the new universe if they needed him. If they need him for something. Not just shoe him in because they have to. I don't think you need another... You're not going to reboot Blue Beetle or any of that crap. I think that this is fine. This is a good starting point.
It doesn't seem like there's any reason this movie couldn't still be canon if James Gunn does sort of like soft restart the DC universe, right?
Right. And I think they're going to do the same thing with Aquaman.
Well, I think the recent quote from Jason Momoa, and correct me if I'm wrong, but was something like, he's done with Aquaman, but he's not done with the DCU.
And they're thinking that means he's going to be Lobo, but we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, this is fine. And like, yeah, I kind of wish all superhero movies would stop, but as long as they don't stop, I would like to see, Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle show up more. I will say, for all my, semi-positive, qualifiedly positive things about this movie, I said this earlier, but the mid-credit scene of Ted Kord's not dead is the hackiest, like most lazy, most amateurish mid-credit scene I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, you just see a shot of the Beetle cave, and you see the mannequin that's doesn't have anything on it again, and then you get this message from Ted Kord that's all distorted on the screen, saying he's still alive. He's not dead. Where is he? I don't know. Will we find out? Probably not.
And that's okay.
He's out there with what's his face's Green Lantern, Sinestro.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're never going to see it come to anything.
I mean, that's the real question. Is James Gunn going to bring back Ryan Reynolds, Hal Jordan?
Or is Deadpool going to make his way into the DCU extended universe? Because he's making his way into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, Matt, we've gone a long time. It's certainly been 2 films. They are certainly 2 movies.
Yeah.
You should man up and watch the Marvels when it hits stream.
I will, Bob. When it's released on streaming, I will give it a go. Because I have watched pretty much all 16 hours of the other, of the I don't know, what do we need to call that? Like, that's not homework, but it's...
Prequels?
The prequels, yeah, accompanying literature. I don't know what you want to call it. Accompanying. We're going to have to come up with a name for that kind of thing. I don't know what you call it.
We'll be back soon for more Uncanny Tracks. We're not sure about what yet, but we'll definitely be back for more. We'll be higher energy. We'll probably be talking about higher quality stuff. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.